Right, it's finally here, the long-awaited AMP press. AMP, AMP, whatever you call it. We call it AMP in South Africa. I don't really think it matters. You guys know them because they make the Annealing Made Perfect Mark II annealer, which is, we all know, the hands down the best annealer on the market. This is new. This is awesome. Now, before we get into this, and by in, I mean literally open the box. Some of you have said, and I've gotten an email from one gentleman specifically, and I'm going to do a whole separate video on that email, is that, Pete, what you kind of, the tools you play with, it's not relatable for the average person. Now, nobody wants to watch videos with boring stuff, first of all, and it's pretty cool for me to be able to showcase new products like this. Now, do you need the best of the best of the best to win matches and hunt successfully? I will be the first one to tell you that you do not. Okay, I think that's pretty clear from the videos that I've made. Yes, I have some amazing kit like this carbon fiber bat vampire that I just got in. Also 28 Sherman. It's going to be ridiculous. But the reason I have that cool kit is to show you guys that, and I've worked my ass off to be able to get equipment like this and make cool videos for you guys. So that is where we are with that. But you could have the same hunt, hit the same shots with a Howa. Really. I mean, my Howas were shooting like tiny little groups. Now, on that note, will this press specifically make you a better shooter? Now, I said this on my Instagram. Absolutely, it's not gonna make you a better shooter. However, this press has been designed to give you concrete data, data, on what you are actually doing, and if the things you are doing is a waste of time, are you getting results? It's going to actually be able to give us some answers. So in today's video, I'm going to set this up. I'm not going to show you guys exactly how to set it up, okay? Because AMP did a phenomenal video on their channel, how to actually set up the press. And I highly recommend, if you're picking up one of these, to go that route. I obviously haven't assembled it yet, but I've watched that whole video and it's pretty clear. And that's actually quite awesome. You know, sometimes you buy something from a company, and if you're a dad and you've ever had to assemble baby products like a cot and things like that, and you look at the instructions, they're so poor. Okay, so they did a banger job of putting together some nice instructions. Now, I'm very excited for the possibilities this opens up, because there's a lot of discussions I've had with people. Is it necessary to anneal? Is it not? And we'll be able to put some numbers on that. Now, I do believe Eric Cortina has an AMP press. My friend Gavin from Ultimate Reloader also has one. So if you guys also want to check out their videos, I highly recommend you do that too. So without further ado, I'm going to get this puppy all set up, and we're going to take you guys through some of the features, what it can do, what it is designed to do, and ultimately what it's going to help you, or where it should fit into your process. And if it is something that you need to invest in, that is the goal for today's video. So, me trusty hunting knife. Let's go. As I said, I'm not going to take you guys through an hour-long assembly process. Not that I think it's going to take me an hour, but I don't want to. Yeah, I think I can cut that. Let me just be safe. By the way, we are running. That's when you know your knife is ridiculously sharp. We are running a new microphone setup, which is right here. So I hope that touching the boxes and the stuff is not too loud. But I guess time will tell. Okay. Now it does come with a welcome letter. Something to note is at the moment, it only runs Microsoft machines. Now I'm an Apple guy myself, but there's quite an easy workaround. If you download something like Parallels Desktop, you can run basically a Windows virtual machine on your Mac. There's plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do that. Okay, the manual, you can also download this from their website. Okay, we've got cable, and as always, as with the annealing machine too, there's a nice dust cover, because even in a room like this one, there's no windows in here. Somehow, somewhere, and even though this door closes for the studio, there's always dust everywhere. So, super cool. Okay, it's really nicely packaged. Obviously, Annealing Made Perfect are they're located in New Zealand, so these things travel all around the world. Now, what's very cool about this, and perhaps I'll overlay some footage, is they actually supply a spring die. Now, this is so you can measure how accurate, okay, and repeatable the load cell is. So that's pretty cool. The machine is capable of pushing with 200 kilograms of force. Okay, so that's a lot of force. So it's very important that if you're using something like this, okay, that you don't have your fingers in places they shouldn't be. If you've ever reloaded, even on a single stage press, and when you're seating a bullet somewhere, not had your finger in the right position, just the force of your hand pushing the ram down can be quite painful. Now, basically, this machine works not quite as a normal traditional reloading press works. In fact, it works more like an arbor press, like the one you guys see over here. So this is the one from 21st Century Arms, and this is something that I use all the time when reloading. So basically you have an inline die, which looks a little bit different than standard die, sort of more something like this. We'll break out one of those in a second. So more sort of this style than a bench mounted press, and that's important to know, so that if you do pick up something like this, you will have to invest in some inline dies. Now, what I can tell you is that once you go the inline die route for bullet seating, and by the way, that's the only thing that this press does. It seats bullets. It doesn't resize cases, none of that. It is for measuring consistency of force required to actually seat bullets into cases. So basically what it's going to do, it's going to tell you how good you are at prepping brass, essentially. Okay. Now, what's really cool about that, because we're going to have some concrete data and you can run different tests. You can test annealed versus not annealed, brushed versus not brushed, tumbled with stainless steel versus tumbled with wet, dry neck lube. The list goes freaking on what we can try. Obviously, with our APW expander mandrels, that's going to be one of the first tests that I run to show sort of what sort of consistency we get when using a mandrel, 1 thou neck tension versus 2 thou, what sort of things work. I mean, I'm very excited, if you can tell, with the amount of stuff that I can test with this. And then, obviously, once you figure out what works and doesn't work, okay, you can then take that and load volume on whatever single stage press you're using, or a progressive style press if you're loading precision rifle ammo or training ammo. But then at least you know which sort of steps is worth it, okay? Is worth investing the time for that little bit of accuracy or consistency. And that's the one thing that I'm really excited about. So this product was really needed, because up until now it was almost like, it was like almost, it's a weird example, but probably like a diet. Like this one says vegan's the way to go, this one says carnivore's the way to go. Like it's kind of like we don't have the real data. Whereas this is going to answer that question. So I'm super pumped. Okay, let's break this sucker out. Actually, I'm going to be a little bit careful here. That needs to come out. Okay, so this is going to be all of our power cables. Now, importantly, I want to make a correction here. When I unboxed my Annealing Made Perfect machine, which is just off the side of the camera there, I said that there was no power cable in. Now, that is only because it was shipped to me directly from New Zealand. Wherever you pick up your machine in the world, you will have all the cables. So I needed to make that correction. Power cables, we'll pop all of this on one side and sort of get a little bit more organized. And by organized, I mean getting stuff out of the frame. Okay, and then we have the actual press. So this is the top bit. Now we're going to have to assemble this whole thing. Wow, I just glanced up at the computer screen at the top there, so I can kind of see what I'm doing. Okay, so that is rock solid. And we have some controls and things on the back here, so I'm going to lay that down. Perhaps get my knife out the way. Okay. Right. Now everything's been sort of layered with the cardboard inserts here, so nothing is pushing on top of each other when it is shipping. Excuse the noise, but I'm going to have to rip this out. And then over here we actually have the load cell and sort of the base of the press. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Has any of you ever... So you buy something and you rip things out and you throw the box away, and then like a day or two later you go like, I'm kind of missing that screw. Yeah, so be careful not to do that. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go onto the AMP video, the assembly video, and actually take my time and set this up, because this is something very crucial and we want to make sure this is perfect. So I will see you guys after that. As I said, if you want to set this up yourself and you've ordered one, check out the video. I'm going to link that video for us down below. In fact, I'll put that video up here. Okay, cool. So let me get my MacBook and watch that video and get this puppy all set up. It's pretty basic. This is gonna go somewhere like that, but there's some screws and things that I need to loosen before we can pop that guy into there. Lekker, let's go. So by the way, if you watch the video on Amp's YouTube channel, you'll notice the pace of the assembly video is very slow. Now, if you don't have the press and you're just watching Mac assemble the press, it might feel like a really slow video, but assembling this now, and I'm having, I've got my laptop here, and I can actually keep up in real time as he's putting the press together on the video. So I'm literally going, he's tightening these screws here at the top on the back, and I'm tightening those screws on the back. So the pacing is really cool that you're basically assembling this in real time with him, which I found super helpful. And I much prefer doing that than reading the instruction manual to assemble something with pictures, and even though that is a nice to have if you don't have internet for whatever reason, but then I guess you're probably not even watching this video. But it's just a nice little touch to be able to follow in real time. I thought that's pretty cool. So remember earlier when I said make sure that you take everything out the box, because sometimes you're looking for something and you don't have it. Now, in order to load the software, don't worry, the computer's sort of behind the press, but we do have another camera over there, so you will be able to see the computer. Okay, now, the USB stick that comes with the password or the sort of serial number to link your press to the actual software was still in that box, so I had to go grab that out. Now, we're going to run 3 tests to show you guys sort of the power that this tool has to allow you to diagnose things. Now, I've got 3 different sets of brass here. Very important, the brass has not been tumbled. So it hasn't been stainless tumbled, walnut tumbled, or corncob tumbled at all. I have wiped off the outsides, lubed them, bumped their shoulders back by 1/1000, okay? It is so important, I cannot stress enough, you guys, how important it is to size your brass correctly. Okay, now, some of these have been annealed. These ones are labeled NA for not annealed. The difference between this one that's been annealed and this one, I also ran an expander mandrel through the necks of these 5. I'm going to be seating 105 custom comps, and all of these do not have primers in, so we're not making live ammo. YouTube person, I don't even know why I bother saying that anymore. Just, yeah, it's actually a bit of a joke. Anyway, okay, so annealed, nothing else. All of them have been sized. Annealed, expander, not annealed. So without further ado, I haven't seated one bullet. We're gonna start with the not annealed and sort of see what we've got. Okay, so I've already found my eggs here. Let me just double check that we have that. Okay, cool, so that is hunky-dory. Now, how these sort of inline dies work, your case goes in there, okay? I don't really bother, you could either do it like this, okay, so case goes down, die goes over, bullet goes in the top, like that, okay? And then you pop this guy over. Now, I don't really bother doing that. What I would just do is sort of powder, then put all my bullets and I'll pick them up like that, put them down and just slip the die over. That kind of goes a little bit quicker. Okay, not that we're going for any form of speed here. It also ships with a spring die that you can test the consistency, but let's be honest, we've all got a lot to do, so let's get on with it, shall we? Okay, so number 1, not annealed. I'm probably gonna skip through these a little bit because otherwise it might get a little bit long-winded. So let's seat our first bullet. Okay, so we got a pretty rough graph. I'm gonna do my best so this camera does. There we go. I've had to set the exposure a little bit on there, but this is our first 6-dasher dummy. Okay, so let's do the next one. I'm still gonna pop, bullets in all of these. And basically what we're looking for here is inconsistencies. Now, at the end, I'm gonna tell you guys the benefits of doing it this way, especially for you guys that like to go long. Okay, so immediately there we can see quite a deviation. I'm gonna have some nice dummy rounds to do some dry firing here. Now the guys from AMP are working on an app, okay, and iOS software, so if you have an Apple computer. And I also know that there's Bluetooth coming for this, so you should be able to operate it from your phone pretty shortly, which is awesome. Okay, so clearly you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see this is all over this show. Oops. Okay, now you might say, Pete, what the hell? This is exactly what I was expecting. But that's horrific. Okay, so quite a lot of deviation. Now basically what the graphs is showing us, it's the total amount of force at which point in the stroke. And you can see the total amount of work being done. And that's basically during different parts of the stroke, we're having different inconsistencies. Now what's very cool about this, there are different ways that you can sort this data, aka using, for example, the total amount of force required over the whole stroke, or you can try different part of the strokes and have the highest spots and lows. There's like so many ways you can use this data, which is very cool. Okay, so now I'm going to save this session, start a new session, and next we're going to go with the ones that only have been annealed. So here we go. We've got 5 dummy rounds for dry fire. Okay, save. Okay, so first ones with brass that has been... Oh, I actually had a wrong piece of brass there. So we need the ones that only was annealed, not the ones that was annealed and expanded. Okay, go. Okay, now I'm expecting a little bit more consistency here. A lot more consistency. As I said, the brass was not clean, so I don't know how much of a role that is going to play. Okay, so a little bit better than what we had earlier. Whoops. Ooh, way low. Interesting. Was not expecting that one. And we'll talk about that one specifically just now. Okay, so that was our session with the brass that was annealed. As you can see, definitely closer than we had earlier. I'm wondering if, because we didn't clean them and their necks weren't brushed, nothing, that is why we're still getting quite a bit of a spread. Now let's see what these guys do. And I'm hoping, otherwise I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And then tool's going to be great for that, because it's going to allow me to diagnose stuff. But actually, at the current data, I'm not too stoked with my work here. So let's see if the next ones are the business. Okay, moment of truth. Annealed and used our expander randle on them. So we should have a little bit more consistent neck tension here, because that's basically what this is telling you, right? Neck tension, how much force is required to seat the bullet. So that immediately the profile is looking a little bit different. Okay, as we can see, quite a big jump in the middle or at the beginning section there. Okay, similar. Definitely more consistent than the other ones so far. It'll be interesting to overlay sort of this data. Getting a little bit lower. So we'll notice that this first section of the graph where it's completely flat, okay, that's this little dead space where the ram's moving down. Why did that feel loose? Oh man, that little lock ring was not... I'm thinking we have some extra deviation here because the lock ring wasn't 100% tight, which is a bummer. But definitely annealed and expanded was way more accurate than the other ones. Now, important here, there's one that's really an outlier, this one at the bottom here. Okay. And what's really cool now, if you're loading in sequence, for example, on a 200 block like this, it can actually tell you, well, that's trace number 4. And if you started there and you're working your way down, it's quite easy to go 4 in. Okay, or if it's 14, it would be this one. okay, and actually take that round and put it one side. And if you're doing like an extreme long range competition or a long range match, you know, you're shooting 1,000 yards, you can then take those outliers and put them one side. And that's a really nice way where you can batch ammo and make sure that you don't have any random flyers. Because the problem when we're shooting long range matches is that most of the time we only have 2 rounds at the far targets, especially the format where we're shooting. And this is going to be massively vital for me in those formats is if you shoot that first round and for whatever reason it is like an outlier like that, and I don't know why that happens, but it does happen. I'm so bummed that that thing was not properly tied, but I will redo this and revisit this and do way more tests for us down the line. The problem when you're shooting long range, now all of a sudden, you know, there's one of these that was a flyer or an outlier. You shoot, even though you know that you did everything right, your wind call was right, everything was right, but you see that bullet landing a little bit low or a little bit high. You make a correction based on that. Now all of a sudden you're shooting a round that's perfectly sort of in the average, okay, of your good ones or your consistent ones, but you've made a correction of a dodgy one. Now your correction's also off and you're shooting in a different spot. So that's basically where this is going to be mega important if you're actually wanting to load with it and batch ammo in different batches, okay? Or what most people are probably going to use it for is to diagnose what works and what doesn't work. I'm certainly very excited to do many more tests with this. I'm so bummed I didn't have more brass for us to actually do this, because as soon as I saw that this was loose, I'll probably do a video on my Instagram once I have more brass, and I'll probably update this because there's many more tests, as I said, that I want to do. But I think overall a super cool piece of kit. They are available and shipping at the moment, and I think if you're a serious shooter and you want to diagnose sort of what you're doing reloading wise, or if you're a long range competitor, this certainly is a game changer. And what I like about it is it's not often where, you know, our industry, although it is evolving, the reloading press has been relatively the same, okay, for a long time. And this is a giant step into the future and to give us some concrete data as to what we're doing. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry about the loosey-goosey thing there. I think what happened was I was playing with the spring die, and when I finally got, because I had to borrow my friend's computer, thank you Ira, because my new Mac doesn't have the Windows virtual machine on yet, and I didn't want to struggle with that. So we're running Ira's computer, and then I switched between the dies. I probably just didn't lock it up, so my bad. Overall, easy to set up. The video guide was super simple, and I think it's a really cool product, and we're going to learn a lot. And I'm really excited to see what you guys think about the AMP press. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you've somehow found my channel for the first time, please subscribe. I'd appreciate that. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Also, shout out to Modular Driven Technologies, MDT, for sponsoring today's video. I shoot all of my long range chassis, my hunting rifles, everything is in MDTs, and they are absolutely stunning. So shop your MDT now at mdttech.com, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And you're not going to regret that MDT, I can guarantee you that. Cool. Cheers guys. Bye.